What's up, guys? It's Lo here from Nino and Lo, and today we're talking perennials. I've compiled a list of 12 perennials that I grow in my garden, and I'm going to tell you all about them. So without further ado, let's get to it.
So I've decided to split this video in two and highlight 6 of my perennials in this video and do a second video for the other 6. So let's jump into the first 6. Hostas, otherwise known as plantain lilies, are a shade-tolerant plant, and they're mostly grown for their foliage. They do bloom, but everybody loves the hostas for their foliage. They're great low-maintenance plants for the garden, and there are tons of varieties to choose from. So this is the side of the shade garden. It's on the side of the house. I call it the shade garden. It does get some sun, but mostly shade. So I have my trio of hostas here, various shades of green, which I love the different contrasts, especially with the pop of white in the front one here. Hostas are mostly disease resistant, but you have to watch out for the slugs and snails, and in the early fall is probably the best time to transplant them while the soil is still warm and the roots are growing. Spring transplanting will work fine as well, but you have to wait until the soil is warmed up a little bit. Now, some hostas are easily divided. I divide mine usually in the spring. You just cut them with a sharp spade or knife and replant the divisions anywhere where you would want the next one to grow. Now, Rudbeckias, better known as black-eyed Susan or coneflower, is an excellent perennial for your garden. Easy to grow. They're hardy in zones 4 to 9. They love the sun, at least 6 hours of sunlight. The flower will give you plenty of blooms from June to September. And germination takes about 7 to 30 days if you're planting by seeds. Now you have to be careful with these because they are prone to powdery mildew. You can just treat that with any kind of fungicide. And every 2-3 years or so, you should divide them. Deadheading will encourage new blooms, so you will have blooms throughout the summer from June to September, and they grow about 2 to 3 feet in height and about 1 to 2 feet in width. Next on the list is Gallardia, also known as the blanket flower. This is another easy grower, great perennial to have in your garden. It gives you big color and is very cold hardy. Now, hardiness zones for this flower is between 3 to 9, so it can grow in most gardens. It attracts a lot of pollinators, and they make great show whether you put them in the landscape or in containers. Now, cutting back spent blooms will definitely improve the plant, and if you deadhead them throughout the growing season, it'll promote more continuous blooms. Next, we have the Monarda, or bee balm, sometimes called bergamot. These plants all belong to the part of the mint family. They can be annuals or perennials depending on the actual type of plant that you get. They're hardy to zone 9, between zones 3 to 9, so they're very easy to grow. They grow about 2 to 4 feet tall and about 1.5 to 3 feet wide. So when you plant them, make sure that you give them enough room so that there's air circulation around the plant, because this plant can be very susceptible to powdery mildew. They prefer full sun. They will tolerate a little bit of shade, but you won't get as much flowers if they don't get as much sun. They like a moist soil, so you can add lots of mulch around, beginning blooming around July, and they will continue to bloom throughout the summer, especially if you deadhead them. That will encourage more blooms. Now, you have to be careful with this plant because it can become very invasive and spread due to the rhizomes that make up the root system. I had a lot of success with this shade-loving favorite. This is called a bleeding heart, or also known as a dicentra. This is a wonderful shade-loving plant that starts to bloom in early spring. As a matter of fact, this will be one of your first plants to wake up from dormancy. Here is my beautiful bleeding heart. The flowers are like upside down hearts. They come in pink, white, or a deep, vibrant pink. They're hardy in zones 2 and zone 9. They grow to about 6 inches to 3 feet tall and 1 foot to 3 foot wide. Now these plants, they prefer moist, rich soil, but make sure that you don't keep the roots too soggy because they don't like that. And you can deadhead these to prevent the plant from self-seeding too early. So if you deadhead, you will kind of lengthen the bloom cycle. Now, one thing that you have to be mindful of is not to cut back the plant after it's finished blooming before it turns yellow, because this is the plant storing up its food for the next year's plant, the next year's season. So make sure you wait until the foliage gets a bit yellow before you cut it back. This plant is susceptible to powdery mildew, so keep an eye out for that. These plants are toxic, whether it's ingested, maybe small animals, a dog, it can induce vomiting, diarrhea, even some difficulty breathing. And when the plant is touched, it can cause a bit of skin irritation. So make sure you wear gloves when handling this plant. Here is a Japanese painted fern. This gorgeous plant has bluish, silverish fronds, and they're accented with kind of like a burgundy purplish hue. They're hardy from zones 5 to 8. They grow about 12 to 18 inches tall and about 1 to 2 feet wide. Now, these plants are shade lovers. They can withstand a little bit of light, but they will thrive in almost total shade. They're non-invasive, although they do have rhizomes in their roots. They'll basically thrive with very little care. The ones that I have, I just planted them, and all I really do is trim away any dead or diseased fronds. They don't even require any pruning. They prefer a moist, well-drained soil. They have been known to be toxic. So let's recap our first 6. In the number 1 position, we got the Hostas. Number 2, Rudbeckia. Number 3, Gallardia. Number 4, Bee Balm. Number 5, Bleeding Heart. And number 6 is the Japanese painted fern.
What did you think? Do you have some of those in your garden as well? I bet you do. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. Like, share, subscribe. You know the drill. You can give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed what you saw. Take care for now. Bye-bye.
Part 2 coming your way soon.